everybody, Tourist Investing coming at you today with 5 dividend ETF combinations to make you rich in the long run. Now, I understand ETF investing is not for everybody, but this is for someone that just wants something nice, simple. I can put money in it once, twice, 3 times a month, and just let it ride. None of this financial advice. Always do your own research stuff before investing in anything. These are just some ideas, and these are market-beating ETF combinations over the last 5 and 10 years. So if that excites you, if you love dividend investing, you want more dividend love in your life, make sure to hit that subscribe button, drop a like down below, and hit that bell icon so you know I'm doing my uploads every Tuesday and every Friday. I greatly appreciate it. Those things are super free and easy to do, and it helps the channel and the videos out a ton. Now, without further ado, what are we going to be taking a look at? So today, our ETFs are going to be a combination of SCHD, VOO, QQQ, QQQM, and SCHG. So let's go ahead and take a look at these ETFs and what makes them tick, and then we will look at the portfolio setups that I have arranged. So SCHD, we all know and love that. It's the swap dividend ETF, expense ratio 0.06, so real low expense ratio. Love to see that. Take a look here at the holdings tab. Now they do have 102 holdings, and their dividend yield is 3.49%, and you can actually see the sector breakdowns here. Amgen, AbbVie, Merck Co., Broadcom, Home Depot, Texas Instruments, Verizon, Cisco, Chevron, and Coca-Cola bringing out their top 10, and their top 10 holdings make up 41% of their total holdings. You can see sector breakdown and allocations here. Next up, we got VOO. This is just the S&P 500 ETF. Expense ratio 0.03%. We take a look at the holdings tab here. Dividend yield of 1.48%. And their top 10 is Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, Nvidia, Alphabet, Class A and C are both in here, Meta, Berkshire, Tesla, and United Healthcare, and those 10 make up around 31.07% of the fund. Next up, we're going to be taking a look at QQQ as well. That has an expense ratio a little bit higher at 0.2%, but still not that bad. We'll take a look here at the holdings tab. So I didn't say how many holdings the VOO had in it, but I think they have 500. It's either 500 or 502. They hold the top 500 companies that, S&P 500. QQQ, they have 102 total holdings at a dividend yield of 0.64%. Their top 10 very similar to VOO. We got Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Broadcom, Nvidia, Meta, Tesla, Google A and B, well, Alphabet A and C, and Costco, and those make up 45.43%. As you see here, a little bit higher allocations to those top ones. And QQQM is basically QQQ, but with a cheaper expense ratio, coming in at 0.15% instead of the 0.2%. And you take a look at the holdings, very similar, pretty much with the yield and everything else, 102 holdings. And lastly, we've got SCHG, which is what I hold in my Roth. Expense ratio 0.04%, so it's a growth ETF with a lot lower expense ratio than the past two. We see here, we got a dividend yield of 0.48%, 251 total holdings, and their top 10, Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, Nvidia, Alphabet A and C, Meta, Tesla, Eli Lilly, and United Healthcare Group, and that top 10 makes up 54.47%. So now it's time to take a look at the ETF breakdown. So the first one I have set up here is one that I've actually showed you before. This would be something that I would eventually, I will eventually do this in the future whenever I'm like, you know what, I've did it, I've got all the monies built up that I need, it's time to just coast through. And I would do a very similar setup to this right here. SCHD at 36%, VOO at 32%, SCHG and QQQ at 16% apiece. And you might be thinking, why are those split up? Well, SCHG gives me exposure to some stocks that QQQ doesn't have, and it's not as volatile. It's still very volatile because it's large cap, but it's not as volatile as QQQ. And I kind of like just the balance of it all. And if you take a look here, over the last 5 years, this portfolio would have returned 113.51% compared to S&P's 84.24%. And if we go out even further, over the last 10 years, 252% compared to the S&P's 162%. Now, this does account for dividends, splits, everything is calculated into this. This is through portfolioslab.com. Next up, we've got another scenario set up. Let's say you don't want to pay that expensive that expense ratio of 0.2 or 0.15%, and you still wanted to set up a very similar portfolio. Well, what you could do is a little bit of SCHD, VOO, and SCHG to get that lower expense ratio. This is just 34, 33, 33% setup, just even split amongst the three. And if you look here, over the last 5 years, 110.8% compared to S&P's 84. And over the last 10 years, through 239.94% compared to the S&P's right at 163%. So, still very solid setup. I mean, there's nothing wrong with this setup neither. You can obviously go in and fool around with these allocation percentages however you would like. Next setup, let's say the expense ratio thing doesn't bother you, and you're okay with just having QQQ or QQQM thrown in there. Well, this is basically the last scenario, but with the Qs. And as you can see here, it's a little bit higher because, QQQ returns a little bit more than SCHD, but again, it is more volatile. So this portfolio would have returned 117.74 compared to the S&P's 84. And over the last 10 years, 269 to the S&P's 163. So just absolutely killing it. And the next portfolio setup, this one would be, let's say you want even less volatile and you want to mainly follow the market, but you want some growth in there still and you want to get some of that dividend goodies. So what you could do is something very similar to this. 50% in VOO, 25% in SCHD, and 25% in QQQ, and just let it ride. Again, still market beating, 113.52% over the last 5 years, and over the last 10 years, looking at 255% returns. I got another one for you here. Last one we'll take a look at. Let's say you want mainly dividends. Let's say you love SCHD or die-hard SCHD fan. This one's a 50% in SCHD, 25% in VOO, and 25% in QQQ. And if you were to do this setup, you're looking at 110.78% return over the last 5 years, 84% compared to the S&P 500. And over the last 10, 249.9 compared to the S&P's 162%. So yeah, when it comes to investing, if you don't feel like, you want to go and pick out individual stocks, you don't want to have to do the research, and you don't want to have to do all the analysis and the worrying and the ups and the downs, absolutely nothing wrong with going all ETFs. I mean, that is a very strong way to invest. I've been leaning more and more toward doing that myself. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. Again, none of this financial advice. Just wanting to show you that you can just put together an ETF portfolio and still just wreck the market. I hope you enjoy. Make sure to hit that like button. Drop a sub if you're new. Comment down below. All the goodies, all the love. And until next time, take care. See yous.